And welcome to STOked, the ultimate Star Trek online podcast. My name is Chris.
Jeremy.
And this is episode 37, Jeremy. This is one of those episodes we're doing a live gameplay session. It's like Tactical View, only live.
Yeah. And we figured it's such a nice day outside. Let's spend the whole time inside playing video games.
Before we get into that, though, we do have just a couple of really quick news stories we thought we'd cover. First one up
is the 2409. The Path to 2409 finally got completed. Thank heavens, Lord Almighty. Hallelujah.
So here's the path to 2409. They've just finished it. The last place they got to is 2402, and now it goes all the way up to where Stowe takes place.
So if you want to find out what happened to all your favorite old characters and what they're doing now, how they're chilling in the Stowe universe,
that's where you'd find
it out.
And then the other story we wanted to cover is Patrick Stewart.
Our homie.
He finally did get knighted. He's officially now
Sir
Patrick Stewart.
And that just makes it funny when you watch old TNG episodes and everybody's calling him Sir, and you're like, yeah.
Yep, they had it right all along. All right. Well, why don't we get into some of the gameplay?
Let's do it.
Here we go. Why don't you shut up so I can say this so you can play it in the show?
Oh, there we go. We must have just been using too much of the internet.
We were interneting too
many internets going on right there.
We were interneting way too hard.
All right, so next we're going to run you guys through a mission called, I think I'm going to get my Klingon wrong here, the Kuvahmah.
Yeah, I think it's something like that.
We were going to meet a Miral Paris, who is the daughter of B'Elanna and Tom Paris from Voyager.
And the thing, we're doing this one live, so it's kind of like a live tactical view. We've got some of our buddies from Jupiter Force grouped up with us right now, and we're using the new squad system. So I'm a captain level 9 typically, but right now I'm Lieutenant Commander 1.
And I think one of our guys is an admiral. At least that looks a little bit like a sovereign he's flying. So
he was, but right now he's also Lieutenant Commander 1.
I know.
All right, let's get into it. She doesn't have eyeballs in this one for some reason.
That is what I call unenjoyable.
I'm with you, brother. Get in here and kill as many Orions as possible is essentially the mission.
The mission was just to destroy 5 squads, but each squad is like 10 ships. Do you realize how many Orions we are committing genocide on right now?
I know. Because you got to figure there's probably at least a few hundred on every ship.
Go Federation! To seek out new lives and new civilization. And destroy them.
Captain, I've made contact with Lieutenant Miral Paris on the surface. She's our Starfleet liaison for the peace conference.
Okay.
Good to know that. I probably should have known that before I got this far and killed this many Orions, but I'm glad they told me now.
Now we are going to beam down and render assistance on the lieutenant.
Well, so we're defusing some
spatial charges, also known as bombs.
Fancy bombs. Oh yeah, eat phaser, Klingons. How does that taste? Salty? Is that phaser salty? Eat that phaser.
So another thing to know about this mission is when you get down to the colony and you're here to render aid for the lieutenant, there's these injured Federation soldiers all over the place, and if you revive enough of them, there's an accolade. Bing! The Orion groups and the Federations fighting them will continually respawn. So if you're going after an accolade that's kill a number of Orions,
right,
also a good place to work on that. Feeling much better now, thank you.
Just what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, I gotta tell when I logged into this character, somebody, some random dude said, "Is this the hot one?" For a minute, I thought he was talking about between me and you, and so I said yes. Ah, Swordmaster! Swordmaster! Run away! Congratulations. Yeah! And it leveled me up, too.
Nice, dude.
Now we have to go into the base after we talk to Morale here. Here's another thing that you guys can know. If you want to know all of the backstory about all this, if you're not like a Voyager fan or anything, you can ask her about it right here.
And how come your dad was kind of a jackass and your mom was kind of an ass?
So the thing that's going on here, they're attempting to facilitate peace talks between the Federation and the Klingons to try to avert this war thing that's going on.
Yep.
So there are some from that warlike faction now have kidnapped the diplomats for the Klingons, and now we have to go save them and try to help the peace talks. That's what's going on.
We got to get things back on track.
Another thing to note is every time you rescue one of these guys, the diplomats, a group of Orion will spawn and come after you.
And now it just becomes sort of monotony. Monotony.
So here's the big bad guy, the Dehar Master. He's the one that's got all these guys held captive. Dehar Master, I think, is Klingon for Swordmaster on crack.
On roids.
Yeah.
Oh, we need to return to our ship and defeat Klingons. Here we go. Open fire. I wish I could actually have that do something. Other than sound amazing.
So this isn't him, but he's telling us about Bavat. Bavat is on the flagship.
Bavat.
It sounds like a phaser or something. Yeah, a little bit.
Nope. Sounds like you're passing gas.
Are you saying that Klingon names sound like passing gas?
That one does. Bavat. It seems you have won this time, Captain Pike. But there will be no peace between the Klingon Empire and your Federation. So who is the real victor here? That's always what the poor sports say. The poor sports always say that, dude.
I am the one that has won, even though I have not won.
Right. Accolade.
So that was the end of the Kuvama mission.
I'm going to go ahead and depart system.
That's done. Okay, so I think that microphone's just going to be there. Magic floating microphone. Next in our little series of tutorials here, we're going to be taking you through the State of Q mission. This was a mission in the Gamma Orionis sector that you can only get once you're a Rear Admiral 3 or higher. That's it. That's the whole intro. All right, so what we're here doing is the Copernicus is sending out a distress signal, and we are here to save it. But then things are going to get a little bit interesting. So what just happened was that Q reset the entire instance and made it harder. That's what happens when your healer takes aggro. So J-Rod asked, how do you put out plasma fires if they hit your ship or one of your teammates? You can use a power called hazard emitters, and that will immediately extinguish it. It's also a heal over time. Okay, so this time Q didn't screw with us, but you never know if that wily Q is about. Mon Capitan. What? Stop! Prepare to relive one of the most renowned battles in your Federation's mundane little history. If you noticed, we were beaming down to the USS Saratoga. Anybody out there that's a lore junkie might recognize the USS Saratoga as the ship that Ben Sisko was on board during the Battle of Wolf 359. Ooh, they were carrying banana pancakes. Now, in this section, you will finally have made it to a central room where you will have to fight off waves upon waves of board. They'll come from these doorways or scattered around the room. force field that was here has gone down, and now we need to go destroy the Borg devices wherever they are. Probably through a doorway. And this one's shiny. Let's go this way. So that looks like a Borg device. One device down. Now, just to further fill you guys in on the whole thing that's going on here, that opening text from Q was basically that something's going wrong with the timeline. He's not entirely sure who's been fudging up things, but these Borg were not supposed to have this device. They were not supposed to have been able to board the Saratoga. And if they were able to board the Saratoga, then Cisco would have died. And the rest of the whole DS9 timeline, the Dominion War, all that stuff would have turned out completely differently. So he's helping us preserve the timeline by defeating the Borg that came back here. Ta-da! I have to congratulate you, Borticus. That was almost entertaining. That was a terrible Q impression. I'm awful at this. Man, why do you guys put up with me? Return me to my ship, Q! And that's it. We've just shown you the mission state of Q. Now, the whole thing with the timelines going on, you'll actually see more of during the special task forces, specifically the Khitomer Accord. So this is just sort of a preview of what was to come in that special task force.
A couple episodes ago, we asked you, what must the user-generated content engine, when that machine comes rolling out for us to play with, version 1.0, has to have what?
Now, unlike when we did the last couple of questions where everybody had different answers, this one actually kind of is reminiscent of the first question we asked, the persistent PvP thing, where a lot of people had just basically the same idea over and over, which is cool. I think it's really cool when a community all has the same idea.
Especially this one?
Yes. So what we're going to do is, instead of going like, well, Bob told us we need to put this in, we're just going to give you the top 5 things.
Let's do it.
That came out of this. So number 1, with a bullet, with several reasons behind it, is that any user-generated content tool needs to have a ranking system.
Absolutely. I totally agree with this
so
one.
that other players can give things some sort of a, yes, this is a good mission, or no, it's not.
You have to be able to weed through the crap, because everybody's going to be trying it out for the first time. There's always going to be content that is just not for everybody.
Absolutely.
You've got to be able to sort by rating.
Now, that kind of a system is always going to be prone to a little bit of griefing, but I think, honestly, the necessity of it is going to outweigh any amount of griefing that may be present. One thing that it can help to mitigate some of that potential griefing is to do things like, don't tie it to the accolade system. For example, if there's an accolade out there where you get one for creating let's say it's on a star system, 1 to 5 stars. If you get an accolade for creating a 5-star mission, then you're gonna somebody like me could just go out there and say, hey, everybody, I made a mission.
Yeah, go vote for me.
5-star it.
Right.
It could be a
you can
total
scam
pile
the system
of crap, but if I wanted the accolade, scam the system.
Yeah.
So it needs to not be tied to that. It needs to be not tied to any sort of
I agree.
progression that could affect somebody's actual gameplay in any way. It just needs to be there for the sake of being there, really.
That's a good point. Custom mission text?
Yes, that's the next big one. Now,
I thought so.
Absolutely. I think that if you don't have the ability, if it was just like you plug in a pre-made, prefab NPC, and they have a number of scripts you can choose from, then it's a worthless tool. Because the whole thing behind
because they're all going to be kind of the same.
Everybody wants to be creative. Everybody wants to have their own storyline, especially in this Star Trek universe.
Yeah. And if there was
so much creativity,
if there was only like 30 templates to choose from, you could vary it up. Eventually, it's all just going to get stale.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I understand, though. I mean, there's probably got to be a tendency to want to do that because it'd be a lot easier to develop something that's more template-driven.
Absolutely. And but what we'll end up with is just an extension of the Genesis exploration content.
And I know people wrote in a lot about this too, but that along with that ties into custom bad guys in the sense that you don't want to only have 30 models to choose from.
Right. I mean, if you have to do only Romulan, Klingon, Cardassian, Mirror Universe, if all you can choose from is the big bad guy.
And maybe 5 variations of each or something like that.
Yeah.
But you have, they already have an awesome character creator, editor, and modifier, so you just plug that in.
That's number 3 is custom bad guys. Custom aliens, custom NPCs of any kind. That needs to be included. We need to have the option of creating our own people in this universe.
All right, so number 4 of the numbers. This would have to
I thought this was kind of honestly a no-brainer.
Yeah,
but
cross-faction.
Many of you
got to go
mentioned
cross-faction.
it.
They want to be able to have Klingons play stuff that was maybe more originally designed with the intention of Federation players. And I think this is a total must because we're already always talking about, boy, Klingons need more content. Klingons, this automatically brings Klingons new content.
Absolutely.
It also means that if they started, say, a new faction, Romulans, then the Romulans automatically would just pick up all of the content that's been created out there.
Right.
That's a huge repository.
And the very last suggestion that many of you sent in is to make the user-generated content accessible through our holodecks, either on our ships or set aside a section of memory alpha for holodecks.
That'd be sweet.
And let me just flesh this out a little bit because we had a really good suggestion out there from one of our listeners is that they could actually tie this into the ranking system and create a tier structure so that anybody wanting to experience user-generated content has a number of choices. They can go to memory alpha and they can beta test. Frontline, user-generated content, brand new, just getting its feet wet. Somebody just made it maybe that morning, and you can play it and rate it. And then let's say every week, maybe every 2 weeks, the top-rated, 10 from memory alpha get moved to star bases, where then those can be experienced.
Any star base, you can play any one of them that's met that criteria.
Sure, yeah. Or maybe you can buy the program there and play it on your ship, something like that. So it's more readily accessible, more widespread. From that, there's then a third tier where it appears at Quark's Bar in the holosuites. Creme de la creme of the user-generated content appears there with, hosted at DS9.
Rated R. No. Just saying, Quark's Bar has a reputation.
That gives you a real easy way if you are just playing the game and you don't want to have to weed through crap. You know that if you go to Quark's Bar to experience that user-generated content,
that's your third tier.
That's going to be the good stuff.
Top shelf.
Yeah, you don't have to spend your time.
That's one way to do it. I don't really think that'll be probably, they'll consider that to be too confusing for new users, so I don't ever really probably think that'll happen.
Possibly.
But that would be kind of neat.
Now, another thing about using the holodecks, and this is something that I really want to nail home because I think this opens up 1,000 new universes for the idea of user-generated content in Star Trek, because you can include things then like Dixon Hill, Sherlock Holmes, Captain Proton. You don't have to always be in the Star Trek universe if you're on a holodeck.
Yeah. Dixon Hill would be cool. And Captain Proton.
Or like Wild West, like that Fistful of Datas. Yeah. But there's so many
Barclay fantasies.
Now, that's not necessarily, I think that as a suggestion for this segment, 1.0, maybe not quite.
Yeah, definitely.
But the other suggestions we had, rating system, custom mission text, custom bad guys, and available for everybody. I totally agree. I think you guys have nailed it exactly on the head. The only one thing that I would add that was actually not sent in to us as a suggestion
you want to see? Something you want to see added?
A tutorial.
Yeah.
Or a series of tutorials on how to use the user-generated content.
I think there's a pretty darn good chance that if people watch this show, they're going to get that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If Cryptic doesn't offer it, we will most
even if Cryptic does, I think we'll most likely still do it. We got, we're going to have our own take on it.
But again, that'll just help weed out some of the crap that people will be experiencing, is if there's something built into the game that can teach you how to do things.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that will just raise the lower bar.
Oh, it almost take like an open source approach where certain already created user-generated content could be modified or built upon. So you could go start and see the environment already built and sort of deconstruct and redo it.
Like
start
a template,
that way.
Like a half-made template.
Sort of, the water's already warmed up for you before you jump in.
Right.
That might be a good way to do it.
Another interesting idea that we got before we wrap up here, and then we'll give you our contact info and all that fun stuff you always love hearing. One guy has suggested giving player-controlled missions. Whereas...
What does that mean?
As in, when you were playing through it, somebody else was playing as the bad guy, or as the game master. Like a game of D&D almost, where he would take control of the bosses and the NPCs and stuff like that.
There was a Star Trek: The Next Generation episode where Q snaps everybody down, and he makes them battle and turns Riker into a Q himself. Yeah, very game master-ish. Mm-hmm. So it's canon. It's canon. Just saying.
It's Q canon. It's a little bit of a stretch.
Which is basically the variable, the Q variable. All right, well, we did mention there's several ways you can get a hold of us. If you'd like to give us feedback on the show, discuss things with the community, anything like that, you can go over to jupitercolony.com. There's a section there just for Stoked. We've also got the email address.
Yep, stoked at jupiterbroadcasting.com. In addition to that, there's also our Facebook page where, if you were watching the rest of this episode, we were doing a lot of it live. Facebook is where we tend to announce that kind of thing.
Yep.
So go over to facebook.com/Jupiter Broadcasting.
There you have it.
And that's where you can keep in touch with those live events when they come down.
There you
We'll
go.
have a new question for you next week, so stay tuned for that. We love getting your feedback on those. You guys have some great ideas.
Yep. And we're out every Tuesday.
Yeah.
We should mention that. Tuesday at Jupiter Broadcasting, where you can find high-definition versions, iPod versions, low-res versions, MP3-only versions, OGG Theora versions, you name it. They're all over there at jupiterbroadcasting.com every Tuesday. All right, everyone. Well, thanks so much for watching this episode of Stoked. We'll see you then.